What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Nikki. If you're new, this is Life with Nick, and I do videos on business, lifestyle, fashion, and sometimes storytelling. So today I am back with another video. I'm here today just to give you guys some pointers, whoever you are, wherever it is that you're trying to move to, just to give you guys some help on what to do before you move, some financial guidance, just to show you guys how much money you may want to have saved, and some other tips that you guys want to look into before you do move. So before we go ahead and get into the video, if you have not already done so, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, turn on those likes, go ahead and like my other videos, and let's go ahead and begin. Okay, so one thing people do not usually tell you about moving is how much it actually costs. So in order for you to know this information, you have to do your research. So before you even think about moving, before you even think about saving, I feel like the best way to learn about a certain area is to actually go ahead and visit that area. So before you even think about, hey, I want to move to Atlanta, I want to move to Vegas, wherever it is that you want to move to, go and actually take a trip to that place just to see if you like it. Just because you don't want to see all the hype of a certain city online and think that that is just going to be the only thing that determines your move. You actually want to make sure that you go. That way you can see what the lifestyle is like. You can see if you can actually afford to live there, which is a really important factor. Not only that, you can see what the people are like. So I would highly recommend that, just because you don't want to be blindsided. Everywhere is perfect when you go to visit it, but really living in a place is completely different. So whether or not you can afford to go for a full week, even if it's just for a full weekend and you just want to see what the city is like, go ahead and book that trip. And during that time on your trip, you may even be able to go ahead and schedule apartment tours. That way you can get some kind of guidance on how much you're going to actually have to save. That way you can look into gas prices. You may be able to talk to the actual realtors. That way they can tell you what the deposit amount is. So go ahead and take that visit. Make sure you go and see what you're actually getting yourself into before you do anything else. Just because moving is no joke. Once you're kind of signed into a lease, you're signed into that lease. Most leases are 1 year. So once you're into that lease, you're kind of stuck into it for a whole year, and you don't want it to be something that you regret. So go ahead and book that trip now if you have not already done so. Like I said, it can either be for 2 days, week, 2 weeks, whatever it is that you can afford. So moving on, we are going to talk about actual apartment finances. So before you move anywhere, you need a home, obviously, whether it be a house or an apartment, which is what most people do when they relocate. You want to go ahead and look into how much your apartment is going to cost. You want to, before you do that, you want to look into where the apartment is actually located. So you want to go on the website, or even call around and see like, hey, is this something that I can afford? But not only that, before you get to that step, you want to make sure that it's something that you can actually get to. So that brings us to transportation. So before you move to any place, you want to make sure that you can get to point A to point B. I know most people say like, as long as I can get to work or whatever, or as long as I'm here, then that's a start, which is really important. And it is a big start, but it's also important to know what you're going to set yourself into. So you want to make sure you know, hey, is this apartment close to my job? Or hey, am I going to be able to get around this city? I live in Georgia, which is really big. So you want to make sure that you also have the means of transportation. That way you're not stuck in the house. You want to make sure that you are looking at apartments that are near the places that you actually plan to go to. So that also plays another factor. So before you do that, make sure you look into the transportation needs. But after that, you want to make sure that you look into the actual job that you are going to have. Make sure that your job is actually near the place that you are living, just because some places that you move to has terrible traffic. So you don't want to be one of those people that move to a city and you're blindsided like, hey, I can't get to work today, or I'm late to work every single day because I live 1 hour in traffic away from my house. You want to make sure that you look at that. Like, so when you're looking at your job, you find your job, that's done, make sure you look around in the area of your job. Even if it's not ideal, the city that you work in isn't ideal, you want to make sure that you at least look in a city that is maybe next to or not too far from your actual job, just because it's going to be extremely time consuming. Not only that, it's going to be extremely expensive, just because you're going to have to put so much gas in your car. Versus if you look at an apartment or a house where you work, then you won't have to have that much of a commute. Therefore, you won't have to spend so much money on gas. So make sure that you look into that. I know when I moved here, it was like awful. When I first moved here, I moved with my dad. So I was staying with my dad for a couple of months before I got my own space. And I would have to drive like an hour and a half to work. I was filling my gas tank up like twice a week because I was in the car for like an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back. Most of my day was gone in traffic. I sat in traffic for like 3 hours throughout the day, which is a lot of time. So to avoid that, make sure that your job and your place of living is kind of close to each other, so you don't have to deal with that. So moving on, once you do go past that step of finding your means of transportation and finding your job, and you finally found the apartment that you want that is near your job, make sure that you ask questions. I feel like some people, like a lot of people, what we do is we go into these apartments and we love it so much, so we're like, I'm going to be able to do it. I'm going to be in a completely different place 6 months from now, when in reality you can't afford the apartment. So here's some important questions to ask. Some important questions to ask is, one, am I able to afford this? So ask them, hey, what is the actual requirement? How much does my monthly income have to be? So what is my monthly income requirement in order for me to be approved for this apartment, which is extremely important. Just because I recommend, if you are looking for a place to at least make 3 times what your rent is. So for example, if your rent is $1,100 a month, you want to make sure that you're making $3,300 a month, which is 3 times the $1,100 a month. Just because you want to be able to afford other things too. You don't want to just pay your bills and have no money left over. And I'm going to get to some steps next, but just make sure you ask that question. 2, you want to ask, what is the security deposit? So am I going to have to save up for 2 times the amount of rent? So 2 times the rent, because some people, they will require you to pay not only the first month rent, but another month of rent on top of that. But that honestly just depends on your credit, just because some people may have to pay that and some people may have to pay $200 a month for their, or $200 for their deposit. So make sure you ask that question. So 1, we have, go ahead and ask them what the monthly requirement is for your income. And 2, we have asked them what the security deposit is going to be. Lastly, ask them, what is your admin fee going to be? Your admin fee. And when I first moved, I was like, up in Ohio, they don't really have admin fees. It's just an application fee. The process is very simple. But when I moved to Atlanta, I noticed like, hey, they want an admin fee, which ranges is pretty low. I would say it's anywhere from $100 to $250, just depending on the apartment complex. But make sure you do ask those questions, just because you, again, don't want to be blindsided. You want to make sure that you have the funds stacked up and saved so that you can move into your apartment. So make sure you ask those questions. So again, I'm going to repeat it just so we're not lost here. We have the monthly income requirement, we have the deposit, and then we also have the admin fee costs. So make sure you have money for all 3 of those things. Some other bills that you are going to have to worry about, and I did not know this at all before I moved out of my college apartment, but you also want to make sure that you are looking into the power, just because here in Georgia, if you live in Georgia, you know that there's Georgia Power. So your apartment might come with water, sewage, trash, all that, but you may have to pay your power bill separate. So in order for you to do this, you actually want to call or go online and set up a power account, or it may be different for different states, whatever it is, power, water. Ask your apartment head, what am I going to have to pay for separately? Call them and see. Some places like Georgia Power, they will make you put down a deposit. So you want to make sure you ask them like, hey, how much is deposit? What is my deposit? And then that way you have funds for the power to be cut on before you move in, just because you don't want to move into an apartment with no power. Like, let's just be honest, that defeats the whole purpose. But make sure you ask them that, hey, am I going to have to set up any water or power accounts outside of what my rent is? That way that you have the funds set up for that as well. another thing is we want to make sure that we have Wi-Fi. I tell people this all the time, and I remember I was having a debate with my mom about it. Like, she was saying, like, okay, Wi-Fi is important, but my mom is older, so she doesn't really care. But people nowadays, you know, we need, a lot of people are working from home. People watching Netflix, Hulu. In order for you to do all those things on your television, you will need Wi-Fi. So make sure that you have your Wi-Fi set up, just because I'm going to let you know, most, and I'm talking about like 9 times out of 10, apartments are going to make you pay for your Wi-Fi separate. So make sure that you have Xfinity, Dish, whatever it is, Verizon, AT&T, whatever Wi-Fi it is that you can get your hands on, or whatever is valid in your area. Make sure that you have that Wi-Fi account set up as well. So make sure you have money aside for that, just because most apartments, again, does not offer that Wi-Fi inside. Cable, I feel like, you know, that's a whole different story. If you're someone who has cable, look out for that too. I personally don't have cable. I have HBO Max, Hulu, Netflix, all that stuff. So cable is just so pointless to me. You can literally watch every show on all of those forms of streams. But make sure you have Wi-Fi. Just make sure you have Wi-Fi set up. So again, I'm gonna go over my list just so we're not confused here and I don't lose anyone. So 1, we have the transportation. 2, job. Once you get the job, you want to make sure that you look at a job that's in your area. Once you find that apartment, you want to go ahead and make sure you ask the questions. What is the security deposit? What is the monthly income requirement? What is the admin fee going to be? So once you have all those down packed, you got the funds set aside for that. That's great. You are moving on to your next step and moving into your new apartment. So next, after that, we're going to talk about, hey, look, call your apartment people, ask them what comes separate. Is it the power? Is it the Wi-Fi? What comes in this apartment? Once they tell you, you want to go ahead and get those separate accounts set up. That way you're just sitting around in your empty apartment with no Wi-Fi or no power. So have those set up. So once that is done, look, you got those things done, you're ready to go. But I will say this is some other pointers I'm going to give you guys just to keep in mind. So make sure that you are knowing where you're moving to. I feel like we live in a generation where everybody is kind of like wants to be like everyone, especially with social media. The world is so competitive right now, and that's a whole different story. But I feel like people are such in a rush to kind of move along that they get to places, and then when they get there, it's like, oh, well, I don't have this, or I can't afford this, and then that just puts them into a financial hole that we just do not need. You know what I mean? So take your time when you're doing stuff. Actually know the place that you are moving to, and I'm going to say know it. I mean know it. Know that this is like a place that you're going to be at least comfortable in for at least a year. Just because being stuck in a lease and not being able to get out of it, I've experienced it before. You do not want to have to go through that. So just know where you're moving to. Be in competition with no one but yourself. You know, if you're not ready to move right now and you want to move some years down the line, go ahead and start your journey now to saving those funds, and you know where you want to go. That's great. But don't do it for anyone else. Do it for yourself. You know what I mean? And even if it is moving into a different state, or if it's, you know, relocating to the same state, just to a different area, all these things apply to it. You still need money. You still need to ask these questions. Still need to make sure that you have your list. And after that, you'll be good to go. Just take your time, move at your own steady rate, and you'll be good to go. Hopefully I help someone out there who does plan on moving. Look at my arms. I'm just looking over there. But hopefully I help someone out there who does plan on moving. If you guys have not already done so, go ahead and check out my website. I actually kind of want to show you guys my top, which is from brightvibes.net. You can see my boobies. Oh, I'm grown. But I actually got this shirt from brightvibes.net. So I just want to give myself a little quick shout out. I will leave my website in the description box below. So go ahead and check your girl out. I make sure that my clothes are all really affordable. So every item on my site is like under $40. So definitely affordable website. Go ahead and check your girl out. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell. And I will see you guys again soon. Thank you. Bye.